The scariest moment in my life wasn't when I lost everything. It was when I realized everything I had was never real to begin with. You're listening to the Nomad Build with Angel López, where we rebuild life from the ground up. One choice, one mindset, one breakthrough at a time. Because freedom is built, not bought. There was a moment in my life that I've never admitted publicly until now. I remember sitting alone in a waterfront apartment in Tampa. Sunset hitting the glass. Boat keys tossed on the counter. And a fully loaded 2016 Honda Civic Touring sitting downstairs. Financed. At 16.5% interest rate, brand new from the dealership. And I didn't even understand truth in lending or what those numbers meant. Next to that, a boat I financed at 19% interest rate because the old one I bought cash got stolen. And instead of learning the lesson, I doubled down. I financed another one so I could flex. From the outside, it looked like I was doing great. I had the toys, the apartment on the water. I was eating out 2 to 3 times a day, picking up tabs for my girlfriend and friends, buying drinks for strangers, living above my means, and 3 months behind reality. But that night, alone, I was staring at my bank account, refreshing the screen like something was going to magically change. It didn't. And in that moment, I realized the part I was too ashamed to say out loud. I wasn't successful. I was pretending. I wasn't living the life I earned. I was living the life I financed. And I built that entire illusion because deep down, I felt empty. I felt alone. And I didn't feel like I was enough. Most people think my problem back then was finances. It wasn't. My real problem was my self-worth. I didn't believe I was enough. So I constantly surrounded myself with noise to drown out the silence. I hated being alone. Because being alone meant facing the truth. I didn't know who I was without the lifestyle, without the image, without the attention. I didn't understand discipline, boundaries, or self-respect. None of that. And when you don't know your worth, you'll let anyone tell you what it is. So I became a people pleaser, a yes man, someone who would rather spend money he didn't have than say no. And here's the part that hurt the most. People weren't using me. I was using myself. Using myself for validation, using myself for distraction, using myself so I didn't have to sit with my own thoughts. That was the real rock bottom. Not the bank balance, not the bills. Rock bottom was waking up and realizing, I don't even respect myself. The breaking point didn't come from tragedy, not an accident, not rock bottom. It came from one simple moment of clarity. I looked around at everything I owned, every toy, every subscription, every bill, and I realized I wasn't building a life. I was maintaining an illusion. Every shiny thing I had was costing me the life I actually wanted. So I asked myself a question I had avoided for years. If I stripped away everything I bought to impress people, what would I actually have? The truth? Nothing. But that nothing was the very thing I needed. Because for the first time, I saw exactly what needed to go. People think rebuilding starts the moment you fix your life. Wrong. Rebuilding starts the moment you admit Your old life was built on lies. For me, rebuilding meant getting honest. I was unhappy. I was undisciplined. I had trauma I never dealt with. I didn't understand money. I didn't understand myself. And everything I had been doing was to avoid confronting those truths. So my rebuild didn't start with money. My rebuild started with solitude, honesty, accountability, simplicity, healing, quiet. I stripped my life down to its bones. I simplified everything: lifestyle, spending, relationships, habits. Not because I lost it all, but because I finally understood I never needed it in the first place. This was the first time in my life that I started building with intention. Not to impress, not to perform, not to escape, but to rebuild the person behind the image. I want to say this clearly. My rebuild wasn't about becoming rich. It was about becoming real. And because I rebuilt myself, everything else began to align. Freedom, opportunities, travel, ownership, peace. Today, I live in a way that younger me never knew was possible. I own multiple homes across the world, paid off. I control my time. I move freely. I wake up without anxiety. I live lean, strong, and aware. And most importantly, I actually know who I am. But none of that came from money. It came from the moment I got honest, the moment I stopped performing, the moment I got fed up with my own bullshit, the moment I said, I'm done living a life that I don't respect. That was the beginning of everything. If you're listening to this and you feel like you're stuck, like you're pretending, like your life looks good on the outside but feels hollow on the inside, I want you to hear me. You don't rebuild by adding more. You rebuild by subtracting what's fake. Your life doesn't need more stuff. It needs more truth. The life you want is buried under everything you're afraid to let go of. And the moment you stop running from yourself, your rebuild begins. Freedom isn't found in what you collect. It's found in what you're brave enough to let go of. Your true life begins the moment your fake life becomes unbearable. This is Angel López, and you're listening to the Nomad Build, where we destroy the old story and build the life you were actually meant to live.